Starting off with number 5, the Rosecraft Barlo. I'm a big fan of this two-tone. It's got a gray and an orange. I like the Barlo design. And one thing I like about this particular model, which is kind of an updated, more modern model, is it does have a button lock enclosure as well as a flipper. So I don't mind slip joints for certain tasks, but if I'm going to use something a little harder, I do want to have some sort of ability to lock it, and it's just convenient to have one-handed opening versus an older traditional style blade like, this buck. So back in the day, everybody carried a buck knife, something like that. This is a 3-blade, not quite a Congress style blade, it's a 3-blade. And these are nice enough, but they're, if they don't have a half stop, they're kind of dangerous. This one doesn't have a half stop, and they can guillotine your fingers. It's not really a half stop. The 371 is a classic. This has been around, I think, for a little while, and it's useful. The blade steel isn't amazing, and I have cut myself with this more than once just trying to do stuff one-handed. So these are cool. They're neat. I think aesthetically they're just fine. But I like the Barlo design. Rosecraft is kind of interesting. They do a number of slip joints as well as locking blades, and I just like this swedge that it has on the Barlo. It's fairly thin. It's not an amazing steel. I don't even know what that steel is. I don't remember. If you do, you can comment down in the comment section. It's kind of been worn out on my blade, but I've sharpened it many times. It stays relatively thin, and it looks kind of cool. It's got a high carry that is reversible, and it's hard to lose because it's orange. But this is something I use as a beater blade. I don't take particularly nice care of it, and I'm willing to do just about everything with it other than baton. It is a nice option. I think it's relatively affordable, and a lot of people would probably get into this because of the color variations they offer, as well as the fact that it's kind of old-timey. It's got an old school feel to it, and it does slice relatively well once you put your own edge on it. Number 2, this isn't a knife, but it is something I usually carry with a knife. In fact, I've usually, if I'm going out in the woods for any amount of time, I've usually got a flashlight, a blade, and a fire steel with me. No matter if I'm going out for 3 hours or a whole day, I usually have something like that. I like the Arcfield from OITE. I like OITE's orange variation. The Arcfield is interesting because it has a few different, it's got UV, it's got a laser and a standard light, and multiple strengths for the light. You can see I'm cycling through the pattern right there. Now the Ultra is better, and I've already done a review on the Ultra, but the Ultra that I had is tan, and this one's orange, and I'm just a big fan of orange, as you could tell from the title. This is one that comes with me very often. It'd be hard to lose, and because of the pocket clip, you can wear it traditionally in your pocket. You can flip it around and wear it on the outside of your pocket so it shines down at your feet, or you can flip it on a bill of a hat if you have a bill of a hat. Or I've actually done it on my pockets before, like when I have a chest pocket somewhere, I'll clip it on there, and you could even just do it on your coat like this so you can see what you're working on or reading. The Arcfield is really interesting. It's slim, it's low profile, and it has a decent battery life, charges up just fine. I like these a lot. So this is an easy number 4 for me, even though it's not a blade. I think it's very useful, and usually I have a blade and this in the pocket at the same time. Usually 2 orange ones. Number 3 is a classic. I love the Mora Consbull. Now this is wearing an Otterman Outdoors clip. Thank you to Otterman for sending this out to the channel. They were a sponsor for quite a while, pretty much as long as I asked to connect. They were always faithful to send stuff out. So thank you to Otterman. I always have a fire steel locked onto this one. And the Consbull is a cool blade. I like the sheath because whether you're left-handed or right-handed, it's ambidextrous. It is plastic. The blade doesn't touch the innards, so it's really easy for me to wash this out if I get guts on these, and I do use these for skinning. If I get guts on these, I can just wash them out and dry them out so easily. Plus, the plastic does not dull the blade as it's going in and out of the sheath. Retention is good. Sometimes it's a little frustrating because of how deep the blade goes in, and you just have to get a good purchase on it. You can see that my fire steel kind of gets in the way of my thumb just a little bit. So that one aspect might not be the most preferred, but the blade is, again, very thin. Reminds me a little bit of the Barlo that I showed just a second ago. Neither of these are very thick, and they both have kind of a dual grind going on, except for this is a uniform grind on the Barlo from Rosecraft. It just has a swedge on top, and the Mora has actually a true dual grind. So it's Scandinavian zero grind here, and then it sweeps up to kind of It was Scandi, but they removed a lot of stock material out of the thickness. Let me bring it in a little closer. So you can see that it has a kind of a distal taper because of the grind that's through here. It's a cheap knife. It's decent steel. This one is a stainless variant. They make carbon steel Garbergs if you like a little thicker, broader, thicker blade stock rather, but full tang. Those actually go all the way through the blade. These are close. I think they go about this far in, so they're very, very strong. Polymer, really comfortable handle. It's more of a burnt orange compared to some of the other oranges. Maybe a burnt on the outside and a little bit more true to the classic Hunter orange on the inside, but I love this blade. It's been a faithful blade for me all the time that I've carried it. I can baton with it, light, small stuff like, you know, something like this. I can get away with that with a blade like this. You can get the aftermarket add-ons from Mora if you don't want to go through Otterman Outdoors, but I just like supporting, you know, small timers, and as this was a startup company at the time, I wanted to support him, and so I like these. In fact, I think he came out with these before Mora came out with theirs, which is very interesting. The original loop is just a loop. It's just a belt loop, and there's nothing extra to attach on there, so one way or another, you should probably look at getting something with a belt clip and a fire steel loop if you plan to use it in outdoors environments the way that I do. At number 2, one of my favorite outdoor blades of all time, the Ultimate Hunter from Cold Steel. This is in CTS XHP. I don't think they use that anymore. I mean, Cold Steel is a brand. I don't really know what's going on with Cold Steel. I still connect with Andrew Demko and Andrew Demko's blades. I've done a number of reviews on Demko blades because I like Andrew Demko's designs. That's essentially what it comes down to. This is a really practical knife. It is going to be thicker on the blade stock than like the Rosecraft was. So let me bring this in for you. Definitely thicker, yet somehow, it's probably because it's more broad, I can get a better edge on this any day, and it holds an edge way longer than the Rosecraft does. The Rosecraft, again, is just a kind of a pot metal steel in my opinion compared to this CTS XHP. The handle ergonomics are going to be far superior. It's a really vibrant, bright G10 orange, and it pops out. If you were to drop this anywhere, you would find it, you know, because it's just so bright. Anyways, you can carry this with the pocket clip. You can drop it in a pouch. You could carry it a number of different ways. It's not a huge footprint. It does stick out a little more because of that broader blade. I can't remember who makes these flippers, but years ago, like I want to say like 10 years ago, I collaborated with a company who was making pocket flippers, and it's a neat idea. So whoever that was cool. I don't have to have it nowadays. I'm not always worried about whipping out a blade for, you know, quote unquote tactical reasons. But this blade has been sharpened so many times that the branding is almost gone there. Let me back up. The branding is almost gone. And the profile is obviously grinding away, and I like it more and more. The more I use it, the more I like it. Really great for food prep. Really great for bushcraft, carving, doing notches. I can baton, you know, sticks like this. I can baton it just fine. It works really great for bow drills. I can do spindle cuts for the, let me bring that in a little bit. I can do the cuts for my bow drill board really well with this. It's got a kind of an inline center tip that goes through. CTS XHP, when it's really cold, my opinion is it's a little bit chippy. And this has had little chips. They're like micro chips. It doesn't give big fractures. It's never snapped. I've pried with this thing a little bit. I've batoned with it 100 times at least. And over the years, it's still reliable. The one thing I did with this one is I took it apart and sanded the innards and the edges of the G10. And then right here, I actually sanded this down a little bit. I still use that as somewhat of a guard, but I just didn't want sharp edges anywhere on it. It is a great hunting knife. I've skun a few animals with it, not many, because folding blades for me are just not as preferred. But I love this blade. I love the profile. And if you have a chance to get one of the S35 variants, I highly recommend it. And if they have orange still, if you can still get that, go with the orange one. I think it's one of the coolest, and I love this blade. It is an easy number 2 for me, and I carry this probably at least once a week still. And at number 1, obviously that's going to be my LT Wright Genesis in 3V This is probably my favorite bushcraft blade. When I go somewhere, I really like to take this one as often as I can. It's very, very comfortable. It has those thick black liners. This blade fills the hand incredibly well. I have XL size hands, and none of the other blades that I've shown yet can even touch this one. It is just that much better. Here's that Ultimate Hunter. Now you can see that the Ultimate Hunter handle is longer, so if you have longer handles, or longer hands rather, you might like that CTS XEHP cold steel. The Ultimate Hunter, though, is not going to be as thick as a fixed blade is, obviously. It's not going to be as strong, and you don't have quite as much reach, as well as the fact that the LT Wright comes in Scandi, it comes in a flat grind and a saber grind. So if my memory serves me correctly, I think that's all that it's offered in right now. You can correct me in the comments if you think there's one more variant that I missed. But I'm really happy with this blade all the time. Smoothed out, rounded everywhere. It's got an orange that really pops. It's much more similar to the cold steel orange. If I show you the Consbull, here's a little comparison between the Consbull. Obviously the Consbull is thinner. It's way, way lighter though. The Consbull is going to be like, I don't know, maybe less than half the weight, but you can tell it's got that burnt orange kind of vibe going with the handles. The handles are comfortable. They're pretty good on the Consbull, but it's not going to be as thick of a contour, not as hand-filling overall, and they have this reduction as you go up to your first finger position, which is kind of obnoxious for carving, because if I'm grabbing the blade like this, now my first finger can kind of bite into my palm, and you can't grip quite as tight. So controlled cuts are a little bit more frustrating that way, whereas with the LT Wright, it barely touches. So it's a much more comfortable handle. You still have a lanyard loop on this guy. And it's not everybody's cup of tea. I understand that orange is one of those things that just, it either pops for you and you like it, or you don't like to stand out. You don't want anybody to see it. I don't like to lose stuff. So when I go on trips, I love to have an orange something with me. And I like to know that I could actually find that if I were to drop it or lose it in the grass. I probably can walk back that same trail and find it because it just pops out so well. Comes with this leather sheath. You can get Kydex done for LTs. They're going to be really expensive. It's going to be hard for me to justify that. I usually have a climbing carabiner on the back in the wintertime, and then I'll belt carry it in the summertime. I have a fire steel on it that I made out of, looks like some maple and black walnut. And then I usually have one of these, it's like a Everglow. I can't remember the name of the company anymore, but if it gets about 30 seconds of light, it'll glow for several hours. And you can either use your flashlight or the sunlight is enough. Ambient light right now is enough actually on this cloudy day, and that'll glow for quite some time. I use them when I go backpacking, and I'll set them up on my lines that are hanging, or my tent guidelines. I'll use those on there so that I don't trip over them in the middle of the night, and I can tell they're there. Other hikers can tell they're there. But this is a great sheath. It's very comfortable, and usually this one doesn't have it. Usually I have compound in this part of the sheath. I'll rub a bunch in there, and I can just strop these up, because 3V, in my experience, like this 3V, can handle a good strop, and it'll come right back if I remember to do it often enough. So this is a great number one, highly recommended. It is my favorite blade, even though it's not a blade I'm going to take with me every time. Plus, it's just unique. It's a cool flare, and LT Wright does really well on his blade. So this one is highly recommended. So this was just my top 5 orange products, things that I really like. They pop, I like the color, I like the way they function. If you have something that you think is really cool that I should add to my inventory, comment that down below, because I would love to look into it or message that company and see if I can add it, and maybe I'll make a top 10 list.